a big project with a lot of moving parts. So we wanted to give the board an overview.
Wonderful. Thank you, Doug.
You bet.
All right. Well, good afternoon, board members. As you know, I'm Aisha Panis, the Director of Park and Rec, and I'm here tonight with Janine Rustad, our planning manager, to talk through some of the strategic planning efforts that the district is undertaking. So the reason for this work is twofold. We're guided by an overarching document called the Comprehensive Plan, and that was last updated in 2013. And the second reason, which I'll spend a little bit more time on discussing with you shortly, is because the district is preparing for our reaccreditation under the Commission for the Accreditation of Park and Recreation Agencies, or CAPRA. So this is really a foundational exercise whereby THPRD is able to assess our policies and our operations against the best practices used by park and recreation agencies around the country. So on the next slide, I want to provide a little context for our discussion. So this represents sort of our document hierarchy, and the graphic on this slide illustrates that policy framework that guides what we do here at the district. So the item at the top of this screen is our community vision, and that's what our community wants us to be. The 2013 Comprehensive Plan update included a vision that had been established through a very comprehensive community engagement exercise when that plan was developed. But more recently, the Park District completed the Vision Action Plan, which was another major effort to obtain feedback from the community on what they believe the Park District should offer the community. So Janine's going to talk a little bit more about the update to the comp plan and the strategic plan, but what I'd like you to note is that the comp plan is where the goals of the organization live, where the policy statements live, and typically this plan provides a 20-year plan for growth in which we can demonstrate the general time frame of when certain actions may be implemented. So the strategic plan then takes an even more in-depth look at what the district may be able to achieve within a 3 to 5 year timeline. And that plan must take into account our financial resources and constraints and uses district values and priorities to filter through and establish the highest level strategies for the district. So also shown at the bottom of the slide are a series of functional plans, which include the technical guidance for the work we do, which is the how we do what we do. On the next slide, we'll continue this hierarchy. And we again show the functional plans, including a facilities functional plan, which is a new plan we intend to develop once the comp plan work is completed. From these functional plans, which include our prioritization criteria for the specific programmatic areas they cover, we assess our board and district values and priorities to help develop the budget each year. Off to the left, you see a box called business plans, and those are the documents we use to vet ideas and potentially ask for resources to fund initiatives or programs. To the right, we show other funding, which can mean grants or partnerships that we can leverage for additional reach. And finally, the adoption of the budget allows for each of our work groups to establish their annual work plans. Now that we've had a chance to walk through the planning context for our work, I'd like to move to the next slide to discuss one of the elements that has prompted this large-scale review of our comp plan, the CAPRA reaccreditation. So on this next slide, I mentioned earlier, CAPRA is our national accreditation body for park agencies. It's affiliated with the National Recreation and Park Association. And at our first training for CAPRA, we had a visitor trainer come to THPRD to walk us through what this process would look like. And I believe we were told at that time, so it could be different now, but by not a huge margin, there were 8,000 park and recreation agencies across the country. And today, there are only 183 that have been accredited through the National Recreation and Park Association's CAPRA program. So when we went through this initial accreditation process in 2017, we were able to perform our self-assessment of where we stood as an agency and compare all of that data against the other peer-reviewed organizations around the country. We used this as a process to bolster our policies and procedures and to ensure we were consistent with the accepted professional practices in Park and Rec. On the following slide, I want to share with you some of the benefits we experienced as a result of the CAPRA process. While there are both internal and external benefits of pursuing accreditation, I can't say enough how valuable it was for us as an organization to use this process as a benchmarking effort for the work that we do. We undertook this work to accredit under a very transformative time at the district. We had a number of staff members who'd been with us for 3 decades that were choosing to move into their next adventure of retirement, and they were poised to take a lot of institutional memory with them. And so we tackled CAPRA like it was a succession planning effort. We were able to capture the institutional memory, we formalized our processes, and we were able to use it as a tool to bring up emerging leaders within our organization. One of the other benefits of the reaccreditation process was that it requires periodic review of our documents. So it ensures that we're keeping our practices up to date and that we're refreshing them as needed. CAPRA does take a lot of work, and so on the next slide, I want to walk you through the timeline for what we envision. We did kick off this effort a couple of months ago, and we established our teams that are going to address each of the 10 sections in CAPRA. And so these sections include general information about the organization, formation, etc. It talks about planning. We cover finance, human resources, communications, risk management, evaluation, and tracking. We plan to develop the update to the documentation that we provided before. So there's been some moderate changes. There were 151 standards when we went through this in 2017. There are, I think, 154 now. So we need to adjust and make sure that our narratives that we developed and as we update them meet the new standards. So we've got teams that are working on developing those narratives, and part of that narrative development uses tools to reference documents that show that we've met the evidence of compliance. So there are a number of documents that are pointed to, and in the last go around of this, we did a lot of pointing to the 2013 plan. That's why we need to take a look at this and update that plan, and especially our strategic plan, which has that shorter time horizon, to make sure that it is the most up-to-date information. So between now and the end of the year, we're anticipating that we're going to have to do a lot of document updating. And so our first big work task has just concluded, where we've identified of all that evidence of compliance that we're required to submit with this accreditation application. There are items that need to be reviewed by you as the board. So these are board policies or an actual comprehensive plan or a strategic plan. Those are things that are adopted by you. And so we need to parse out when we're going to bring those forward to you. So that's our next big lift. We also have a number of items that Doug signs off on, and those are our operating plans and procedures for the most part, where he is the approver on those things. And then there's a whole nother classification of items that are like screenshots from our website showing what we do that we as staff can do. So our next big lift is finding those items that you need to see and then programming them out over the course of the next several 10 months to make sure that we have all the documents ready to go by February, which is when we would submit our re-accreditation self-assessment. The step after that would be, depending on what our climate is, either an in-person or virtual visit by peer reviewers. And they then do a report that shows where they think we have met or did not meet standards. In the case of the 2017 review, we met all 151, and that is, of course, my goal for this time. And they submit that report then to CAPRA, and the final step in the process is the hearing at the conference that's held each fall for NRPA, and that's when we would potentially be reaccredited, and the accreditation period lasts for 5 years. So that is a short process talk about CAPRA. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them now. Otherwise, I do have Janine poised to talk you through what our update to the comp and strategic plans look like. So I'll pause just for a moment. It looks like Felicita has a question.
2017 feels so long ago.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, Aisha, this is your expertise and I appreciate it. CAPRA, I'm curious if CAPRA shares our values. I don't think I have to tell you that the board looks really different than it did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and how that shaped our decision making, what we engage in. And I'm just curious, is CAPRA an organization that shares our values around climate change, racial equity, those things?
So I would say that where you'd find a values comparison is much less so with CAPRA and much more so with NRPA. And so NRPA has those pillars, the conservation, social equity, wellness, health and wellness. So those are the primary pillars that NRPA has, but they've also recently updated their strategic plan, and they've injected some additional items into that I think probably are much more in line with our values. CAPRA is more about, these are the things and these structures that you as an organization have to show that you're well managed. And then there's all kinds of flexibility within that. They don't say your values are right, your values are wrong. There's no judgment on that. It's, have you communicated what your values are? And that's what we demonstrate through evidence of compliance. And we show, these are what our values are. This is what our vision action plan looks like. This is what we want our community to look like. So there's much less of any kind of judgment on values through accreditation. So I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure.
It does. And I appreciate, I mean, we're one big, awesome fish in this big world of 8,000. And I know ORPA or NRPA and CAPRA, they're like the pools. Anyway, thank you. That's helpful.
Okay, sure. I think there was another question.
Hi. Oh, can you hear me? Hi.
Yes.
So I just want to know for CAPRA, I'm not as familiar with them, but I guess what is the point of doing all of this work for this accreditation? Like, what does that do for us as a district, or us wasting, I mean, not wasting time, but like it takes a big chunk, so it's a financial investment. In the end, is there grants that we get more for because we have the accreditation, or what is it that really we need this group's okay stamp on us? What does that do for us?
I can ask if Jessica could bounce back to the benefits slide. It's a couple back right here. So we know that there's internal and external benefits for us. We weren't sure what it would look like on the external side, whether we could put that we're a CAPRA accredited agency and that would then put us into the running for more grant funds. We were hopeful that that would be the case. I don't know that we can really say that that was a profound outcome from the process the first time around. What we do know is that it forced us to document the information that we live with every day that had not been documented. We had policies that hadn't been updated in forever, that weren't the most customer service friendly policies necessarily. And so going through this effort and reaching out to peer agencies that had also gone through, that had their policies reviewed, we were able to gather best practices that we could then bring back to our organization. So we were able to make more efficient use of our time, and we went through it very quickly. We had a lot in place already, and we believe that going through this second round of the reaccreditation isn't going to be nearly the lift that it was the last time around. And it's taking advantage of things that we already believe we need to do. So we've already felt that the comprehensive plan we'd worked our way through that. Our strategic plan, with all of the different actions that we were hoping to take that were established in 2013, we've moved through a lot of those. And as Felicita said, we're a very different organization guided by very different individuals now than we were then. And we really believe that those comprehensive and strategic plan documents need to be updated to reflect the values that we now have, the priorities that we've now set, because those aren't present in those existing documents.
Okay. Yeah. Do you know what the cost is to get this accreditation from, like, just from them? I mean, I understand from an internal perspective that we need to do that for our, as a company in itself, organization, we should do that for ourselves. But what is the cost to get that accreditation, just specifically for that CAPRA?
The CAPRA accreditation process is a sliding scale based on agency size. They charge it by class size. So we're class 2 in the scheme of NRPA. So we're the second largest grouping of population served. And so I believe that the cost is something like $3,600 for the one time every 5 years that you do this.
There is another aspect that I'd like to add too, is it's touched on in some of the bullets, succession planning, there's a certain amount of internal pride for the organization itself. And then as well, the importance of our recruitment capacity. There is value in an accredited, because there are so few, across the nation. There really is value in a recruitment perspective as we're building, in our case, rebuilding our team. There really is some great value there as well.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, 3,600 I was just waiting for like a big number. So that's fine. Thank you, Aisha.
And I will also mention that we do leverage this when we apply for grants, especially national grants, because as Aisha pointed out, there's only, 183 Park and Rec organizations that have this accreditation. So it gives us credibility. If we can advance 2 slides. 3 slides, comprehensive planning. Janine Rustad, your planning manager. So as Aisha hinted at, that part of the reason we're updating the comprehensive plan is CAPRA and the timing, but also we adopted our first plan in 1997. I would love to be able to get my hands on that first comprehensive plan. But we updated the comprehensive plan twice since then, once in 2006 and once in 2013. That 2013 plan was intended to be updated again in 5 to 10 years. So we're on target for the next iteration of our comprehensive plan. The 2013 comprehensive plan is when we introduced GRASP as measuring our level of service. And we also include a service and financial plan. At the same time, we undertook a sustainability analysis that provided a 10-year plan for growth. So next slide, please. We've had many accomplishments since 2013. Aisha pointed out that with our sustainability plan, we've met those action items. We've adopted all functional plans except for the facilities one, which was just recently identified as a need. We also updated our parks functional plan in 2019, and that included updating our GRASP, or our level of service analysis. We have almost completed the 2008 bond spending. We have the accreditation. We got our accreditation in 2017, and of course, the great work on the Vision Action Plan. Next slide, please. So the intent of updating this is not only that it's time to do it, but with the Vision Action Plan, we really want to align the comprehensive plan with that work. Hopefully later this summer or early fall, we're going to have new census information. So this is going to, of course, we have the picture of our past. This will give us a better picture of who lives here today and who we can expect here over the next 20 years so that we can better provide and anticipate the services we'll be providing. We want this comprehensive plan to provide a very high-level policy roadmap. And as Aisha said, this is going to be our 20-year plan for growth. So next slide. What shows here is the 2013 comprehensive plan had 8 goal areas, and of course the Vision Action Plan has 4. So we've been working on aligning those 8 goal areas with the 4 Vision Action Plan goal areas, taking into account that maintenance and financial sustainability don't have a goal in the Vision Action Plan specifically, but those are considerations that will permeate throughout the comprehensive plan. So what will this new comprehensive plan look like? We'll have the themes from the 4 Vision Action Plan goals, but underneath those, we're going to have policy statements to guide our work. We'll have a section on with general information. This will sorry, now I'm going to have to go to my cheat sheet of notes, and I was doing so well without them. I need to catch up to myself. We're going to expand the history section. I think some of this we'll have through the CAPRA process, but really putting our history to celebrate it in one place, but also when we need to draw on that, whether it's for grant applications or other purposes, having that there. Of course, we want to acknowledge our role in here as the park provider for the city of Beaverton, as well as the unincorporated areas, urban areas of Washington County surrounding the city of Beaverton. We're going to include direction on how we address conflicts and evolving needs. An example of conflicts that Aisha had brought up in a meeting this week that I really like is when we have a trail that's planned through a natural area. How do we preserve the natural area while also providing the best trail possible. So really reflecting how we'll address those situations. We're also going to include policy statements for areas that the Vision Action Plan doesn't address. This is a lot of our background operation work, that it's not the fun, exciting stuff that we put up front, but it's our day-to-day work that allows us to deliver the fun and exciting programs and places. Included in this, we'll address partnerships. We need to think about how we enter into public-private partnerships, making sure that the district, and more importantly, our community, is benefiting from those. We'll of course include the district values, and the comp plan is, I think this has been said several times, and it can't be stressed enough, that this is a very high-level policy document. We want it to be evergreen. It's no longer going to be the comprehensive plan update. It is the district's comprehensive plan, and it will focus on the items that we'll need and that will have some consistency over the next 20 years. What we're going to take out is a lot of that technical and detailed information. We're working on sorting the 108 Vision Action Plan action items into near term, 1 to 5 years, midterm, 6 to 10 years, and long term. We'll have the framework of that in the comprehensive plan, but we'll take those near term items and put those into a strategic plan and talk about the resources we'll need, both staff, financial, and outside financial. Almost done. Next slide. So our timeline, and then we'll open it up for questions. We have started laying the foundation. Again, that sorting process, looking at the structure of the comprehensive plan. We will, in the next few months, finishing that sorting process, and we want to take advantage of our summer activities, whether it's events in parks, the summer camps, to help inform our community of what we're doing with these efforts, to make part of it is updating or creating a new comprehensive plan. Part of it is making the vision a reality. So then in the fall, we'll start to share these near-term goals with the board, and then throughout the fall and winter, we'll be looking to submit documents for review and approval for the board. And with that, next slide. Questions? Oh, Felicitas, sorry.
I was just going to say that I'm excited, and I think too this comes at a good time in that we're going to have some change in July, which I haven't come to terms with. But it's also excitement too, right? So it's new folks who are going to get to shape things and shape our future. So I think the timing is ideal. And I appreciate earlier, Aisha, how you broke down comprehensive versus strategic and all that, because I think especially too, like for patrons, like, well, just tell me what you're going to do. But these are valuable documents internally. And I'm excited for us to play our role, and I'm excited for our patrons to play their role as well. Thank you.
Thank you. See, Heidi.
Well, thank you to the entire team who's going to be working on this and has worked on it in the past. I think it's great that it helps with our succession planning, policy updates. Curious if emergency planning is part of, I'm thinking, how can we capture all of the work that you've all done through COVID and our emergency response, and have that be a part of this as well? So last thing I'll say is, I think we should promote the fact that we are one of the few agencies in the US that have this. I think that's a great talking point for us as board members to be speaking about THPRD, having this accreditation, because it is, I think, an important, notable point. So thank you for your work with it.
Thank you. The financial aspect, because yes, watching from my level at what the board has done, what the management team has done to respond to COVID, Lori and I are going to be meeting next week to talk about the financial sustainability aspect that will be in embedded in the comprehensive plan and the strategic plan to make sure that we have the right policies in place to remain flexible and nimble for upturns, hopefully in the future, but also when we do have downturns. I don't know if Aisha or Lori, you want to add anything else to that?
Well, while Lori's deciding whether to go camera on and mute off, I will say that with regard to the emergency planning and emergency services, one of the sections in our CAPRA analysis is about safety and security. And so Mark Pierce is leading that section for us to update all of that information. So we do absolutely address that as part of CAPRA. And then just to add on to what Janine was saying about the importance of having the conversation about financial, I mean, these plans we develop are, especially the 3 to 5 year strategic plan, are going to be constrained by what we're able to do. So kind of how we envision this when we were having the conversation about what fits where, how do we take a look at what's in the vision action plan and all of those 108 action items, we can sort of broadly sort them into near, mid, far term items in the comp plan. But when it gets down to that 3 to 5 years, it's going to be absolutely critical to run it through the filter of what can we do? What do we have the resources to do? And knowing that we can't commit future boards to making financial decisions, but we can lay out a framework that's informed by our professional knowledge and our knowledge of the district's budget to figure out what does make the most sense for those very near, sort of near, and a little bit further out items that will be in the 3 to 5 year strategic plan.
Yeah, I think it's a critical call out from the perspective that we talk a lot about, that is the management team, and I've had these conversations with you all as board members, is the importance of us being responsible today and in the future. And the tool of the strategic plan really gives us the pathway. It has aspirational timelines, certainly, but the reality is that within the constraints we are in, we have to be responsible with the monies we have to spend them appropriately, and the very strategic plan will call out those areas of key priority set by the board of directors. So it is a critical document. It's also one of the things we've talked quite a bit in this process is the importance, and Holly will be engaged on the communication side of great plan if it is understandable by all of the public as well. So that ability to communicate that and have language and descriptors that enable all parties to really feel like they understand the district today and where we're trying to go.
And I did not see any other hands up.
Nope, I think we're good. Thank you, Janine. Thank you, Aisha. It's an exciting process. And I do love the element that it helps us with documentation, right, of all of that wonderful knowledge of our district and our operations. I think that that's a really important aspect. So good work and good luck, because I know it's a lot of work ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe that is all we have for work session. So we are going to switch Zooms for executive session. So we'll close our work session and I'll meet you all over in the next link.
Thank you.
Thank you.